Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome to Watchbox, and thanks for logging on. If you enjoyed this watch and you want to know what it costs, email me, tmosso at thewatchbox.com. In the description below, it's the direct purchase and pricing email inquiry line for the questions you have about the pricing of this or any watch you see here on Watchbox Reviews, tmosso at thewatchbox.com. And today, we're discussing the Rolex Oyster Perpetual Submariner, reference 116613LB. This is as it would have appeared between 2009 and 2012 with blue lacquered dial, 40 millimeters in two-tone. You have Rolex's highly anti-corrosive 904L steel, so resistant that Rolex boasts you don't even need to rinse it after seawater exposure. And then you have Rolex's own yellow gold, and Rolex has its own foundry to create both metals, as well as its own equipment to create its cases and its bracelets. So everything from the metallurgy to the fabrication process is handled by the Crown brand. Now the watch isn't as thick as I expected, 12.5 millimeters thick and lug-to-lug 47.8 millimeters and 51 millimeters end link to end link. So that's the distance across the wrist with a 20 millimeter spacing between the lugs. We'll throw it on my 16 centimeter circumference wrist real quick and get a sense of how this watch fits. It's comfortable, and though it does wear larger than the previous 5-digit watch, I found that if you can wear one, you can definitely wear the other. On my 16 centimeter circumference wrist, you can see the watch is low enough to wear under a cuff, and there's plenty of clearance from side to side. I don't feel like there's any overlap. So if you've got that 14 centimeter circumference wrist, heck, it's even worth trying on a 13.5 centimeter circumference wrist. Comfortable and substantial, and a little bit more so because of the inclusion of some precious metal. Now the Oyster bracelet is, well, a classic, but in the modern era, they are more solid than they used to be. Solid end links, solid center links, and of course a fully milled out clasp. You can see that there are removable links fixed in place by screws, and plenty of gaps, calculated gaps on the underside to avoid pinching skin or pulling hair or trapping wrist heat. Now there is a deluxe Oyster clasp, so you have internally the beak and the hook system, so you have one locking mechanism, there it goes right there, and then you have a second, the clamshell. Note when it is closed, first of all, straight through yellow gold stripe, there is a little curve so you can dig your nail in more easily. Once you open it up, you can see that inside there is Glidelock, which is a 20 millimeter adjustment system in 2 millimeter increments, so you have 10 different steps there, and you can use this if you wish for fine sizing. So I can move it in just, for example, 3 or 4 notches, and then I can lock it in place, or I can pull it out all the way and expand it for use over a wet suit or a dry suit. And if I have a really tiny wrist, I can work it all the way in and then lock it down. But I'm probably going to put it halfway. Halfway is where most people will like. I don't recommend using it entirely to size the watch, because then you won't have any margin left to expand it or contract it. I recommend doing most of the sizing using the removable links. Now you can see there is a polished flank, squared off lugs. This is the super case, we know it well. It was introduced on the GMT in 2005. Sheer sides, no bevels, satin finished lug hoods, polished flanks, a very high degree of polish. I've always been impressed by the optical quality of Rolex case polish. You've got a triplock crown in gold. You know that because it has the large dot at center and the smaller 2 flanking dots. That tells you it's triplock in gold. If it were platinum, the center dot would be the small one. You have a solid gold bezel and then a ceramic insert, and the numerals as well as the indices on the bezel are created by depositing yellow gold inside the blue ceramic. Why ceramic? Well, ceramic is very scratch resistant. That's why. A big upgrade over the old anodized aluminum. Now the watch has a unidirectional rotating dive bezel that you can line up with the minute hand and have a 0 to 60 minute timer. It can be used for diving, but it can also be used for cooking, anything. The kids' time out, fish tacos on the grill, you name it. It's a very versatile timing instrument. It doesn't have the downstream service costs of a chronograph. The Rolex luminescent pearl is actually sapphire capped, meaning it's qualitatively better than what you'll find on a standard diver. Here the bezel, because Rolex detent is one of the best. I like to say it has the baffling dichotomy, though pleasing, of being both crisp and smooth. Now, you can see the dial is blue lacquer. This was the case from 2009 to 2012. After 2012, Rolex went back to the sunburst blue dial on the two-tone and the yellow gold subs, leaving the lacquer dial to the Smurf, the white gold sub exclusively. A lot of folks have strong opinions one way or the other, but I actually like the blue lacquer dial, which is what you have here. We have matching yellow gold hands, yellow gold indices, and of course everything on the dial is printed in gold to match. Cyclops eye magnifier, and inside the case, Rolex caliber 3135. A veteran, a tough movement, an accurate movement. 31 joules, bidirectional automatic winding, 48-hour power reserve, 28,800 vibration per hour beat rate. COSC certified Swiss chronometer, water resistant down to 300 meters. The caliber features a full balance bridge with a free-sprung index for shock resistance and a handmade overcoil hairspring, such that the watch is a COSC chronometer, but Rolex, of course, cases up the movements after the chronometer test and adjusts them beyond the standards of the chronometer test. Moreover, the hairspring itself is made of a blue oxidized niobium zirconium Rolex calls parachrom blue. So this is a shock-resistant watch, an anti-magnetic watch, and a water-resistant watch all at the same time. You have both hacking seconds and a quick set. So hacking seconds stops the hand so you can set to a reference time, and the quick set rapidly cycles the date should the watch run down or encounter an irregular length month. In the world of dive watches since 1953, there are only two originals, the Blancpain 50 Fathoms and the Rolex Submariner, and of the two, there's really only one blue chip that has never, ever changed or bowed to fashion, and that is the Rolex Sub. Email tmosso@thewatchbox.com for purchase and pricing details. The Rolex Sub with Rolex Chromolite Blue Lume.